Alright, I'm back with another tutorial on how to change your workload from input power to gunshots, no, to battery when your input power gets too low, not gone. We already know how to trigger things to turn on and off, the battery to turn on and off when there's no power from the solar array. But what happens when the power gets too low? And so you want it to switch to battery because in a scenario like this, where I've got 10 lights, you need 20 power units to actually run this. So if the sun starts going down, um, some of these lights are going to start turning off from the very end of the string all the way back to the beginning. Uh, Really, I want the battery to turn on when it gets too low to run all the lights so that they'll all keep running. The other thing is, this also means that the battery will turn on and run all the lights sooner in the evening in a scenario where you are triggering off of sunlight. Sometimes you don't want to wait for the sun to go all the way down because your base gets pretty dark inside already before full sunset. So you can apply this to a number of different scenarios, but here's how you actually set the threshold. We've got an extra branch over here I'm going to use on this server solely for the purpose of emulating the sun going down. Because the sun's always up on this server, the only way for me to fake a sunset is to just change the output here. So right now, full sun, 58 units of power coming in. A lot of unnecessary displays here to show you what's going on, but just follow along. This first branch is where you set your threshold. Right now, hold down E, you can see it's configured for 23 units. That means 22 make it out through the counter, and then it goes through the OR switch, and the 20s left over going to the lights. That's just enough to run them. So that's my workload, that's my threshold. If it gets lower than this, I want to switch over to battery. So this is where you set your threshold for battery. Above this, on the main power output, that's all the power that's left over. Right now it looks like there's 33 units. I'm tapping off 2, which is the minimum default here. That tap is going over to the blocker for the battery. So that's telling the battery to turn off. So all this extra power, this 30 units, is going to the battery input, and that's charging the battery. Now when we get below our threshold, the blocker prioritizes the branch. So when this gets below the 23 set point, nothing's going to come out of the power out. It's all going to go down the branch. That's going to cause this to trigger the battery to turn on. So let me show you here. Let me pretend the sun's going down and we're only getting 25 power in. That turns into 24. That turns into 22 of our configured 23. That means there's nothing left to go to the charge of the battery. Also, nothing left to power the blocker, which means now the blocker's open. So now we're running off battery. 2 minutes 3, 2 minutes 2. Battery is running the lights. So I got an OR switch here to choose the better of the two power sources, which in this case is the battery. There's only 22 coming in, and that's just going to keep going down as the sun goes down further. And that's how you make this scenario work. If I, just for grins here, I'll turn it back on, say the sun came up. Boom, we got full power. Now there's 30 units of leftover power to charge the battery. Also means just enough leftover power to turn on that blocker. That stops the load on the battery. So here we go. It's counting up 139, 140. There's the battery slowly charging with the extra power. Remember, batteries don't charge if there's any workload on them. So the first thing here is the blocker to make sure there's no workload. And that's how you make this scenario work.